Welcome back to another Film Geek video. Well, the month of April has come and gone, and that means only one thing. It's time for me to rank all of the new films I reviewed in the month of April 2025. Now, if I just glaze over these films in the ranking, don't worry, there is a full review of these films that you can check out on my channel if you want to go in a little bit deeper analysis of these films, but this is just kind of going to be glazing over. Now, this is not anything to do with Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic, anything like that. This is all based off of my personal enjoyment of these movies. And honestly, guys, the month of April put out a lot of great films in both streaming and theaters. So you know what? I saw 13 new movies in both theater and streaming services, and it is time for me to yammer on and talk about them. So let's head on over to the information superhighway, that series of tubes we call the internet, because it's time to rank all of the movies I saw in April 2025. Welcome to the internet, everybody. Let's get this started, shall we? Now, I did say that the month of April had a ton of good movies, and it was really difficult for me to really pinpoint which movie I thought was my favorite. So I decided to go with the movie that I felt affected me the most. What movie this month really put in that effort and really surprised me and blew me away? And I'm going to have to go with Warfare. Alrighty. Warfare tells the story of a group of Navy SEALs that get into a big battle in the Iraq War. Now, unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the city. I'll probably put it up here on something, put the text up here or something at the end of the, but you know, when I'm editing or whatever. But anyways, it tells the story of this battle, and what this movie does is it really shows you the just actual truth of wartime warfare, what modern warfare is like, what these Navy SEALs went through. This is told through the story of the soldiers from their own words. In fact, the assistant director, I think Ray Ramirez, he was also in this movie himself. He tells the real story. He is the director of this film, and he tells all of the events that go on in this. And then one of his buddies that was in this also. Let me tell you guys, this film is intense, and it is just a technical, amazing achievement. The way that this movie draws you in, and it just affects every bit of your sensory. It is amazing. I saw this movie in IMAX, and I do highly recommend seeing this movie in the highest grade theater you possibly can in your area, because everything technical in this film comes together in an amazing way. The sound design, the visuals, the special effects, the acting, everything in this movie is absolutely perfect. And let me tell you guys, it does 100% deserve to be seen up on the big screen. So that's why it finds itself here at number one, because in all honesty, guys, this is the film all month that I just kind of keep thinking about. You know, it just really, really put me in that. And it just is one hell of a movie. Let me put it to you that way. Just one hell of an achievement. Next up on the list is another movie, in all honesty, that highly affected me, and that is The Ugly Stepsister. The Ugly Nope, number two. There we go. Okay, The Ugly Stepsister comes to us all the way from Norway, but I also think it takes place in Sweden. It was filmed in some other places. But anyways, it is from Norway, and it is a subtitled film, and I do believe it's coming out on Shudder as we speak. It's either this weekend or next week. Okay, actually, I think it's May 9th. I think Ugly Stepsister comes out on Shudder May 9th. And if you missed it in theaters, you need to watch this movie at home on Shudder. This is also, if you are a fan of horror and you've been on the fence about Shudder, you don't know, does it have a movie on here that I need to check out, like a new movie? Yes, this is the film. This is a reimagining of the story Cinderella, but it's told from the perspective of the ugly stepsister. And it doesn't really change up the storyline of Cinderella, it just tells the story of the ugly stepsister at the same time. So you're not following Cinderella in this movie. Her events are happening, but the ugly stepsister is the one that we're actually seeing all the things that she goes through. And instead of a fairy godmother granting wishes of beauty and beautiful dresses, nope, this ugly stepsister uses science and a lot of body torture and such. This woman puts herself through absolute hell to try to be the fairest of the ball. Now, in my review, I did say that this movie does have amazing practical effects, but they're not as gruesome as I was kind of expecting them to be, and that is true, but they are still extremely gruesome, extremely well done, but the story itself and the acting and everything else really come together in this movie. This is not just a film you watch to see all the ooey gooey gore, it's also a movie you watch to watch the story unfold in front of your eyes, because it is a really, really crazy mind trip of a movie. Moving on to number 3 of the month, and that is a movie that I just recently saw, and technically this movie comes out in May, but it was the very last movie I personally saw in the month of April, and that is Nick Cage's The Surfer. Well, it's not, he didn't direct it, he just stars in it. Nicolas Cage delivers yet another amazing performance in this movie about a man who just wants to take his son surfing, and these local dudes in Australia just won't let him do it. This is a film about going crazy, madness, is the world turning upside down. This man, the surfer, goes through some extreme gaslighting from a lot of people around him. And this film is not just a really cool thriller and a really tense nail-biter of a film, but it's also an amazingly filmed and beautifully made movie. This film utilizes a lot of in-camera effects to make this sun beating down on Nicolas Cage seem like it's just baking him when he is outside. The film uses all sorts of cool techniques to just make you feel completely uncomfortable and uneasy throughout the entire thing. And to be perfectly honest, this is one of my favorite performances I have seen out of Nicolas Cage in a long time. Not that he phones in anything, he always delivers a very good performance, but I haven't seen his acting like this in a long time. Now, this does have some of your, what you would consider the crazy Nick Cage stuff, but his, I guess you could say, journey into madness isn't necessarily as crazy and outlandish as something like Mandy. It's a lot more reined in, but yeah, it is a hell of a performance. If you have the ability, go check out the Surfer right now. It is in theaters. I know the Thunderbolts is probably killing it right now, but definitely go out and check out this movie if you have the opportunity. Check it out on streaming services when it comes out. Support this film because it is a really amazing achievement in what you can do without CGI and all sorts of crazy, awesome digital effects. Just some really cool in-camera effects and some awesomely looking practical effects. Such a good movie. And it's also a really cool story at its core, and all of the different details that go into all of the horrible gaslighting that goes on with Nicolas Cage's character, the Surfer. There is also some just absolutely terrible things that happen, and I'm telling you guys, this is a solid watch it on the big screen because the cinematography and all is just outstanding. Treat yourself. Get out there and see this movie. All right, I'm gonna take a little drink here. Ooh, now moving into something that's a bit more fun, not nearly as dark as the Surfer, we're going into a sequel. The Accountant 2 is finding itself at number 4. And I do still have my popcorn bucket back there. The popcorn bucket, I did a review on that. Also on that review, it's the cool Airstream. Great popcorn bucket. I love it. That's why it found itself back there. Anyways, let's talk about the movie. So The Accountant 2 is just a continuation of the character, the accountant from the first film played by Ben Affleck. This film brings in some more characters, it brings in some more lore, it has a bigger story, there's higher stakes. This film does everything you want from a sequel, and not only does it deliver an extremely fun movie, but it also has some really good tender moments too between our two main characters, the brothers. I really enjoyed this film. I cannot wait till this movie gets released on physical media, DVD, streaming services, whatever, so I can watch this movie again. I think it's still in theaters. I don't know. I might actually go see this movie again if I have a chance, because I just had so much fun with this film. It's just a nice popcorn flick. There is a little bit more deepness to it than just being a popcorn flick, don't get me wrong, but in all, it is just fun. Just plain fun, you get some good laughs, you get some good action, and a pretty decent little story also. So all in all, guys, solid film, and that's why it finds itself at number 4 on our list. Now that brings us to a movie that has a lot of different parts to it, and that is Cheech and Chong's last movie. Cheech and Chong's last movie is basically the story of Cheech and Chong. It's one part documentary, one part animated film, and one part road trip comedy. And yes, this is a formula that we have seen from Cheech and Chong before in the past, but in this case, it just seems a lot more personal. Rather than it being more of a mockumentary style, it really focuses a lot on the men themselves, their past, and, maybe where life's going to take them from here on out. If you're a fan of Cheech and Chong, or you just want to learn a lot more about them, I highly recommend this film. I thought it was great. Not only do you get to learn more about them, this is not a boring documentary or anything like that. These guys are professional comedians. There's a lot of really great jokes. There's a lot of great interviews that I'd never seen with these two before that brings a lot more depth to them. So all in all, guys, if you're a fan of Cheech and Chong, this is an extremely solid one to see. If it's in theaters in your area, definitely check it out. Go check this one out, because it's, again, it is a movie, but it does have documentary sides to it. But when they do the documentary, they go into like an animated film almost, and it's great. I really like the way it was presented. It added another level to it. It wasn't just like a silly dramatization or something where they just found guys that kind of look like Cheech and Chong, and then they're acting out while the guys are talking over it. The animated sides to the thing just kind of added a little bit more style, a little bit more flair to the film. I really enjoyed it. So all in all, guys, I think this is a solid one to check out if you're a fan in theaters, but if you want to learn a little bit more about Cheech and Chong, or if you want to actually become a fan of Cheech and Chong, I highly recommend checking this movie out when it shows up on streaming services. Alright, that brings us to a VOD film that I was sent a screener of to check out, and that is, right down here, Mega Blood Moon the Freelancer. Mega Blood Moon the Freelancer was a really cool little indie film that I was sent a screener to check out, and I had a lot of fun with this movie. This film is really cool. It really shows off what someone can do with a low budget, one location, and just a vision. There's a lot of really cool uses of the camera and the settings and all to really keep this movie giving you a really like a real creepy vibe. The story in this film tells the story of a man who is a freelancer who shows up to his job. This seems like he's working at some place that is maybe a photography studio, or maybe they film commercials or something there, because there's all these different sets and everything all throughout this warehouse. He shows up there to film or to work on his last day at this job as a freelancer, and there's this huge blood red moon. And let's just say, guys, wackiness ensues. I'm not going to give away any more than that, because this film goes into some really weird and crazy areas, and I really enjoyed this movie. I thought they put a lot of work and effort into it, working with the limitations that they had to deliver a nice little creepy horror film that could lead to more of a universe. I would kind of like to see what else is going on at the time of the freelancer's story, like maybe Mega Blood Moon the hairstylist, huh? See? Yeah? Maybe kind of interesting to kind of expand out like that a little bit with this series. I enjoyed it. This is a solid VOD film. Support this movie. What is a VOD rental? Like $3.99? It's definitely worth the $3.99 charge to sit down and watch a fun little independent horror film. Alright, that brings us to my number 7. And number 7 comes to us all the way from Ireland, and I'm hoping I'm still pronouncing this correctly, Freewaka. Freewaka is a folk horror film from Ireland that is told mostly, it's entirely. There's a couple of parts where they speak English, but the film is presented in the native language of Ireland, which is a really interesting language to listen to be perfectly honest. This tells the story of basically, you know what? The theme in this film is generational trauma. There's also some other folky and also religious aspects that are brought into this movie. It tells the story of a woman who is a caretaker, and she goes out to a house in the, kind of out in the Irish countryside of a woman who may have dementia, and she's going to live with her and help her out while she's recouping from a stroke. Well, while she's out there, weird things start to happen that may or may not be real. Maybe it's the dementia, maybe this woman is also starting to get a little touch of it herself, whatever. But there's reality and possible weird culty stuff going on at the same time. And this movie is just an absolute creep out fest. It does follow kind of a slow burn fashion, but with the slow burn fashion of like, it does kind of get a little dialogue heavy, and then it'll give you like a really cool developed scare. So it does kind of have a little bit of action and such leading up to the big reveal and all at the end of this film. And let me tell you guys, the third act of this film goes to some crazy areas, and it is definitely worth watching this movie. And yes, I understand this is a subtitled film, but please watch it in the original language so you can take in all of this film. So the acting from the original actors, their voices, their tones, all of that, because it's worth it. Trust me, you will have a really good time. Plus, it makes you watch the screen. No hiding your eyes behind the pillow when you're watching a subtitled horror movie. Alright, so that brings us to a movie taking us out of the horror but still keeping with the fun, and that is Tales, or just Freaky Tales, excuse me. I was going to say Tales of a Freaky Kind. Freaky Tales, starring Pedro Pascal. Freaky Tales is basically a bunch of short stories or urban legends from, I'm going to say California. I forget, the Bay Area of California. So it has a lot of different stories and all that come together in one story. They all kind of link together in some way, shape, or another that they all wrap up in the end. This is a really fun, very stylized, cool action comedy that really was neat to see. Now, I think that it has a lot more depth to someone who probably grew up in that area. You're probably familiar with these stories, but there's still a lot of fun to be had in this movie. This is an extremely highly stylized, very violent action comedy, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's told in an anthology film fashion, so you have all of these different urban legends from the Bay Area, and then all of those urban legends kind of come together in some way, shape, or form. Really fun, stylized film. This is a blast. This is one of those movies that you can sit down with a group of people, have a really good time. You don't really have to pay an awful heavy attention to this movie to have fun with it. This is just a fun friends get together kind of film. This is a movie night movie, let me tell you. Alright, that's moving to our number 9, and this is a nice little family film from A24. Yep, they don't just try to scare the hell out of you. And that was The Legend of Oshi. The Legend of Oshi is a story about these little critters that are called the Oshi, and they're on this place with humans. Well, this little girl is told her whole life that these things are bad news, that the Oshi will just rip you to pieces. Now, they're only really out and about at night. Well, she's out one night and she finds a baby Oshi all off on its own. And it doesn't seem like this little guy is such a menace, and so she decides that she is going to get this little fella back home to its family. This is an old school 80s action family film or adventure film. I really had fun with this. This film utilizes pretty much nothing but special effects and puppetry. It looks amazing. It's beautifully shot. The story is fun. Kids are going to enjoy it. Mom and Dad's going to enjoy it. Grandma and Grandpa's going to enjoy it. It's that kind of a family film. It brings everybody together, and it tells not necessarily some huge story, but it's still a fun story. And this is one of those cool family films also where I don't have to make excuses for it and go like, but it's for kids. Come on! This movie was really tailor-made for everyone to really enjoy it. Just because it has a PG rating does not mean it's just limited to children. It just means it doesn't have all the violence and nudity and bad words and all. It just tells a really fun, heartwarming story about this little girl who goes on an adventure to try to get this baby back to its parents. Lots of fun is had, lessons are learned, your normal kind of family fun film, but this is the kind of movie that we just don't get to see much anymore. It's because it's basically like E.T. Let's just put it that way, okay? For all of you kids of the 80s like myself, this movie is modern day E.T. So that brings us to the next film in our list, and that is Going Back into the Darkness. Sorry guys, and that is the film Dead Mail. Dead Mail tells the story of a dead letter office investigator who is trying to figure out where this letter came from, because it could possibly be the letter of someone who is being held captive by a serial killer. This movie is more of a horror experience. It's something similar to Skinnamarink-a-Dink, where you're more immersed into the film. It's not necessarily driven by the story. While there is a good story here, this film tries to combine solid story with the type of, I guess you could say, sensory storytelling from a film like Skinnamarink-a-Dink, and to be perfectly honest, I thought the film did an excellent job doing that. My only problem with this movie is I felt it really kind of lingers on a little too long in the second act. Although the second act is important to the overall story, it felt like they could have kind of, I don't know, trimmed it up just a little bit. The movie felt a little long in the tooth for me, but that does not make the movie a bad film whatsoever. It just makes it the absolute definition of a slow burn. We start off at the beginning of the film, and it just kind of has a mystery of trying to find who this person mailed this letter and all, and it leads up to some absolute crazy events. And the film is presented in a really unique, kind of immersive fashion. This is on Shudder, so if you are someone with a nice surround sound in your home, you're going to probably get a lot more enjoyment out of this movie. But this is a film that if you want to watch it, make sure you dim the lights and turn up the volume, because it does enhance the film a lot. All of that stuff really does bring into it to really build the experience and the fear, the dread, and everything that's happening in this film. You really kind of immerse yourself in this movie. And I really enjoyed the way that they presented this film, but I cannot lie to you guys, that second act did get really slow, so be prepared for that. Okay, so that brings us on to our number 11, and dare I say, I'm surprised I really like this movie, and that is Drop. Drop comes from us from Blumhouse, and if you watch the channel, you know how I feel about those guys. Oh, Blumhouse, oh my god. How can you guys make a movie like The Black Phone and then something like Imaginary? I just don't understand how that works, but here is a very rare win from Blumhouse. This movie's not necessarily a horror film, it is a fun little thriller. It tells the story of a mom, a single mom who has been, home. She hasn't been able to get out onto the dating circuit and everything, but she finally decides to go out and have a date. While she's out on this date, wouldn't you know it, but someone breaks into her house, holds her child and sister hostage, and then tells her if she doesn't kill the man she's currently on a date with, they are going to harm her sister and child. Now, okay, I enjoyed this movie, but when you really start to think about how absolutely absurd everything in this film is, this movie takes a lot of suspension of disbelief. Just put it to you that way. Especially when you get to the end of it and it reveals everything that's going on, you're just kind of like, why in God's green earth did you go to so much trouble to do this? But you did, okay. But the film is fun. It is a fun little thriller about her on this date and all these different things that go on while she's there. The acting is solid. The story isn't half bad, just half-baked, and everything else really comes together. It's fun, it's unusual, and just don't watch the trailer, okay? If you haven't seen the trailer yet, then just go off of my description, Date Night Gone Wrong, and you'll have a lot more fun with it, because in typical Blumhouse fashion, despite the fact that they do throw some red herrings into the trailer gives away a lot of the major events of this film. It doesn't ruin the movie, it just takes away some of the surprises. So that brings us down into number 12. Now we're getting into unwatchable territory. Now I gave this movie the stream it out of curiosity because I did feel the third act brought some interesting stuff to the table, but all in all, it ended up being a typical exorcism film, and that is the movie Shadow of God. Shadow of God is a Shudder original, and it tells the story of an exorcist who is doing an exorcism, things go wrong, and so he decides he needs to take a little bit of a sabbatical. While he's on his break, a friend of his, it takes a minute for you to figure out who this person is. I thought it was like a sister, maybe a romantic partner, but anyways, woman shows up that's a friend of his while he's on a sabbatical and says, hey, something terrible's going on, your father has been possessed. And he goes, my father's possessed? My father's dead. Yes, his father was dead. So this sheriff brings over his now resurrected father, who is also possessed by something. And why I say something is because, and this is not the movie trying to shy away from it, he's possibly possessed by God. That's right, not a demon this time. God himself has decided, you know what, I'm gonna jump down inside this dude. Okay, so why I was interested in this movie was because it just seemed different to the whole exorcism thing, and it's just pretty typical exorcism stuff. It does bring up some interesting concepts. There does have some stuff that happens that you're kind of like, okay, that's a little bit different, but all in all, it didn't really come together completely, and I thought, well, because the third act does go to some interesting areas and some really weird crap, maybe this movie is worth watching. Now, I am not even a fan of exorcism films. I really don't like them at all. I do like The Exorcist 3, but that's for completely different reasons. It takes a lot for an exorcism film to feel special to me, and this one definitely didn't bring much to the table, but it brought enough for me to go, well, maybe you might like it, but in all honesty, skipping it's not gonna hurt nothing. So that's how I put it. Now, my wife, charming Amy, who is a big fan of exorcism films, thought this movie was garbage. That's just the truth of the matter. Okay, coming to our last film of the month. And this one did get my very rare skip it, and that is 824. Oops. Come on, click on the poster. There we go. 824 Forest Lane, or Forest Road. I honestly don't remember a lot of the details of this movie, but it's a ghost story. But what I thought was going to be interesting about this story is it's a haunted town, and it focuses on things like mental health, depression, it goes into more darker areas. Like, this ghost goes after people who are going through it. That's just the best way to put it. If you're having some kind of stress, anxiety, depression, something of that sort, this ghost is going to just make life worse for you. So it sounds like an interesting story. So what you thought was a husband and wife, it's actually a man and his sister and his wife move to this town, and they get haunted by this ghost because they've gotten some kind of tragedy in their life. And the only thing that can stop this ghost is to find this house that was on I'm looking here, 825 Forest Road. So that's it. That's the story. And this is presented to us, it comes to us from the director of Hell House LLC, which is a franchise of films that I really enjoy. And this was his first found footage horror film. And while there was some good stuff here, there is some cool areas that this film goes into. It just didn't do it for me. I'm just gonna say, just watch my review on this film, because I honestly can't remember a lot of the details about this movie, because unfortunately it really was a fairly forgettable film all in all. Even with as much as I disliked it at the time, I can't even remember a lot of the finer plot points to this whole thing. It just bored me, and it just didn't hold my interest whatsoever. I do remember that it did this one thing where it told itself in different chapters, and the first and second chapter is pretty much the exact same thing, but they just have the brother doing one story and the sister doing the other story, and they both go through pretty much the exact same events. So, I mean, I don't know why they did that. I do remember that. But all in all, guys, this is something, if you see it pop up in your suggestion list on the streaming service Shudder, skip it. It's not worth it unless you're just super curious and want to check it out. Give it, your time. Who am I to say what you do with it? But there you go, guys. That is the ranking of all of the new movies I saw in the month of April, year of 2025. So if you enjoyed what you saw here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.